Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Vilma and my channel is called My Curls and Beauty. And today I am doing my roundup of eyeshadow and face palettes. Now I decided to combine the two categories in this video because some of the eyeshadow palettes that I have here have also got some face powders like contour powders, brow powders and stuff like that. And I also have a face palette which is only blushes. So I thought it would be a great idea to just put everything together instead of doing separate videos. Now, before we get into this video, I need to apologize. I sound very congested. I lost my voice about 5 days ago, and today I feel pretty good, and I really wanted to put this video up for you guys. So if my voice skips sound here and there, that's the reason why. I'm just still feeling a little bit congested. And if you hear any sounds in the background, my daughter is kind of like hanging out with her dad. So without further ado, let's get started with this video. As always, I'm going to start with my least favorite because the entire year there wasn't like a worst palette, so I'm not going to include that in here. There is just a least favorite just because probably I only used one of the shades, one or two, and there's a lot more in there that I really don't touch. So the first palette is by Makeup Revolution. This one is called the Ultra Contour palette, and it looks like this. Now, as you can see, there's 8 shades in here, and I've only hit pan on one of them, and I absolutely love that particular shade. It's the banana shade. They don't have any names or particular names or anything like that. This is a very inexpensive palette. Makeup Revolution sells very affordable products. I think this palette only cost me £6. If I'm mistaken, I will correct myself in the info bar below. The reason why this is my least favorite palette is just because I don't really use the rest of the powders in it. I did use them today and they look pretty good, but I prefer the powders that I have to bronze and to contour. This shade over here is a little bit, it's cool toned, but when you apply it on your skin, it looks a little bit warm for some reason. So I don't think it works all that well for my NC30 medium yellow skin tone. But the banana powder is awesome. I also like this bronzing kind of like shimmery powder that I have here. Is like a highlighter, and I also like this one up here, but for the most part I only use the banana shade, and I feel like I used it for about 2 to 3 months and the powder was completely gone. So there's not a lot of product in this pans either, but that's expected because of the price that I paid. So that is the only reason why this is my least favorite, but I'm sure that it will work really well for somebody else. Next, I have the Makeup Revolution Sugar and Spice Blush Palette. This is the Ultra Blush Palette, and it has beautiful shades. There's a lot of pinks in here. There's a few neutral shades up here, and then a peachy kind of like shade here. The two at the bottom or at the end, at the far end, are shimmery shades. Now, this is one of my least favorite and least used palettes because I just don't reach for it. I don't really enjoy shades like this all that much. They are very pigmented. If I just do like this, you guys will see. They are super pigmented. Look at that, super pigmented. And you're probably asking, why don't you use this palette? I'm not entirely sure. I feel like there's a lot of pinks in there, and I'm not really a pinky type of person, if that makes sense. I like more mauve shades, warmer pinks. I think maybe because they look a little bit on the cooler tone. They are very pigmented. Maybe I should start using it, but I bought this in the summer and I barely touched this palette. So it's one of my least favorites. Maybe I should start using it. Let me know what you guys think about the shades. I feel like this would look better on somebody who's deeper in skin tone than myself. Beautiful, but I don't use it so much. My next palette is the Smashbox Shape Matters palette, which comes with 9 eyeshadows and a brow section and also a contour section, which I think is absolutely amazing. Now, this retails for £60. It's a very expensive palette, but I got it for an amazing price. I only paid £30 for it, which I think for the £30 it was okay. For 60, this palette is definitely not worth it in my opinion. It comes with a huge mirror up here, and it also comes with a dual-ended brush, which I love, but I took it out or else it would just fall. As you guys can see, I've hit pan on several shades in this palette, which I absolutely adore. This one here, love it. This one is absolutely gorgeous and completely different. I don't have anything in my collection that looks like that. And you have the matte highlighter, which I used quite a bit. Now for reference, I believe I said this before, I am an NC30 by MAC. And I feel like this palette here, I feel like my skin tone is borderline okay to use this palette. If you are deeper in skin tone, this palette is not the right palette for you. I did enjoy using the brow section. I used the contour shades, but I find that they're not, they don't last very long on my skin. Although I used this one quite a bit, it looked slightly ashy on me, but I kept using it because I really like the palette for myself. However, some of the eyeshadow palettes here, or I wanted to like it, better saying, some of the eyeshadows are a little bit powdery and they don't last the entire day. They crease easily, but my favorite shade out of all of the eyeshadow palettes is actually this one right here. It's a brown shade, which is called Sumatra. I always use this shade as an eyeliner and it stays the entire day. But this, I feel like it's a palette for those of you who want to collect products from Smashbox. You are a fan of the brand, but it's not necessarily a palette that I would say you need to go out and buy. It was limited edition. I'm not entirely sure if you can still find it. It has great shades, but it could be a little bit more pigmented. So it's kind of like one of my least favorites as well for 2016. Next, I have the Blush and Glow by Collection, which comes in a quad palette and it looks like this. It's absolutely gorgeous in my opinion. The only thing in this palette that it's missing is a mirror. I mean, the packaging is very, very standard, but if you drop it, you're not going to break it. More than likely, you'll just break the powders inside. So as you can see, you have a bronzer, two blushes down here. One is a powder blush and the other one is a shimmery blush, and then you also have a highlighter. This palette retails for less than £5. I think it's amazing for the price that it is. I absolutely love the blush. I am wearing it today. It's very beautiful. I think it's quite universal. I think a lot of people can wear it and it gives a nice subtle glow. It's nothing too much or nothing over the top. And then you have the highlighter, which is not the best highlighter, but I like the shade. I think it's great. It really looks beautiful on people who have larger pores, which I do. It does not emphasize the pores. And if you have combination to oily skin, it's a great choice, because if you have highlighters which are very, very powdery, it's going to emphasize everything. It's just going to look oily, like an oily mess. And this palette will not do that for you. It's very pretty. I don't use the bronzer all that much because I feel like it's a little bit too pigmented, too dark for my skin tone. It's borderline muddy sometimes. And the powder blush is very powdery and I don't like the finish, but I do like the shade. If you can make it work for you, the entire palette is definitely worth the price and I absolutely love it. It's definitely one of my favorites this year. Next, we have the Becca Ombre Rouge, which looks like this. This palette is breathtaking. I love all 5 shades. They don't have names, they just have 1 all the way to 5. But I love them. I love how compact this palette is. It has a little mirror. It's really, really good quality. The shades are super pigmented and I wear it a lot of fall, winter. It's just so beautiful. I think it's one of those palettes that if you are the type of person who can get overwhelmed with a palette with several shades, this is just easy. It's very warm toned, which is great. So if you have kind of like similar skin tone to mine, it will enhance your skin tone, I find. The shades are gorgeous, as I mentioned before. This one, which is the darkest one, looks a little bit scary, but it just looks beautiful all over the lid or just in the crease. It's a very fall appropriate type of palette. Is it expensive? Yes, but it's well worth the money. I think it cost me 36 or 38 pounds, something like that, for only 5 shades. Some of you might be thinking, gosh, that is very expensive, but the quality and the pigmentation of this palette is amazing and I highly, highly recommend. Absolutely love it. Next, I have the original Naked palette by Urban Decay, which is well loved by a lot of us out there. I am wearing this eyeshadow palette on my eyes today, and I will give you guys a close-up in a little bit so you guys can see the combination of shades that I have. I'm actually wearing Naked, Buck, Sidecar, Hustle, and Virgin, and I absolutely love this eyeshadow palette. I've had this for 4 years, and I feel like it's a favorite every single year just because I love the combination of the shades. They blend in so nicely. The only downfall of this palette, in my opinion, is there is sometimes a little bit of fallout on some of the shimmery shades, so you need to be very careful. You either use this palette after applying your foundation, or if you want to prevent that, just do it before. I always do it after, but I love it. I think it's a great eyeshadow palette, and if you're starting out with higher end eyeshadow palettes, I would recommend this and another one that I'm going to mention. Just love it. It's very universal and a lot of people can use this, so it's definitely one of my favorites. The next palette is a recent purchase of mine and review. It's from Rosie For Autograph, and the palette is called I Feel Like $1 Million, and I love it. I love how simple it is, but very effective. The combination of the shades in this palette is fantastic. You can wear them on their own, or you can do a complete eye with it. That's the purpose of the palette, obviously. But they are very pigmented and also very buttery. Now, I've used this quite a bit, and I'm still using a lot of the products from this line because I feel like although they're not higher end, they're not drugstore either. There is a certain quality to them. And the palette itself is very pretty, and I feel like a lot of people can wear this. Once again, it's a eyeshadow palette that it's not only geared towards somebody who's fair or somebody who's very deep. Anybody can wear this. It retails for, if I'm not mistaken, 18 pounds, which is a little bit steep, but the quality is definitely there. As I mentioned, the pigmentation is great. There's no fallout, and the best part of this eyeshadow palettes is that they don't crease. You don't need to apply a eyeshadow base whatsoever. They will last the entire day without disappearing, without smearing, without they just stay on the eye so nicely. And I am so glad that I invested money in this eyeshadow palette, and I feel like I'm going to buy more. I've had a look at the palettes. They have 4 in total. Not entirely sure which one I'm going to buy next, but this one is something that I can wear the entire year, and I absolutely love it. My next palette is a sleek highlighting palette, and this is Cleopatras Kiss, and the palette looks like this. I'm really sorry if I'm blinding you guys, but it's completely mirrored, so it's difficult to show you the shades without blinding you guys with the camera. This palette is awesome, like really nice. I am wearing it today, and I feel like this palette just highlights you from here to the moon if you're not careful, because it's so pigmented. It has 2 shimmery or powder highlighters and then 2 creamy ones. I'm actually using this one up here, which is called Sphinx, and I'm using Cleopatra as well, isn't it? No, Goddess, sorry. This one is called Goddess. I'm using both of them on my cheekbones, and I'm using Sphinx on my nose and on my chin. They are very pigmented. Now, you need to be very careful, especially with Goddess, because it's very shimmery. And if you bring it too close to your cheeks and you have enlarged pores, you have textured skin or oily skin, it will look a mess within a couple of hours. So I tend to just use it here at the back and a little bit at the top, and it looks absolutely amazing. I think this is a palette more suited for me, in my opinion, to go out at night and not for every day, unless you really enjoy looking bam, you know, people can see you from far away with the highlighter. I prefer to be a little bit more soft during the day, but it's beautiful. Highly recommend. It was only £9.99, and the pigmentation is absolutely amazing. My last palette has to be my favorite out of all of these that I've shown. It's an eyeshadow palette, and it was given to me a couple of years ago from my husband on my birthday, and I absolutely love it. It's the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. This is the original, and it's also in the new packaging because it's a lot slimmer, and I absolutely love this and highly recommend. So I'm going to hold it like this because it's quite flimsy. The mirror does not hold, so hopefully you guys can see all the shades. They're amazing. It's a lot warmer in my opinion than the Urban Decay Naked palette. The shades are very different as well, but I absolutely love this matte shade over here. I love them. They're so pigmented, very easy to blend, and I've been using it a lot in the past month. Although I'm not using it today because on my past videos I was wearing this palette constantly. It's just one of my favorite palettes. The only shade in here which I don't understand why it's here is this pink shade right over here. I honestly do not understand why it's there. I'll never use it. It's way too pink. It's probably for somebody who has really fair skin, or for somebody who wants to apply it maybe underneath the lash line or as an eyeliner. Maybe, I never thought about that, but maybe that's a good idea to use it for. But otherwise, I would never use this all over the lid. I would probably look like I'm sick, but it's a beautiful palette. It's nearly 40 pounds, or is it 40 pounds? I think it's around the 40-pound mark, maybe 45, depending where you buy it, but it's gorgeous. Highly recommend for you guys to check this one out. If you haven't tried any of them already, this is definitely one to try. They have more which I want to try. Let me know in the comments below which one you would recommend after this one, because I love the pigmentation so much that I am thinking of trying more products definitely from this brand. So that is it for my roundup of eyeshadows and face palettes for 2016. I know you guys are going to ask me at some point what I'm wearing on my lips. Please check the info bar below because it's a combination of 2 products, drugstore and also from MAC. And a lot of you always ask me questions like that, so check the info bar below because it will be listed there. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Let me know if you've enjoyed any of these palettes, if you own them, what you think about them, or which palettes you actually been enjoying throughout the year. I would love to know. If you're new to my channel, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos of myself. And that's basically it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.